Yo, Trojan family, what's going on? Welcome, as always, to the USC LAFB show. I'm your host, Ryan Dyrud, here on another beautiful Thursday afternoon in Los Angeles. Nice and sunny, cooler temperatures. Got my Chad Bowden white hoodie on. I feel like this should be trademarked Chad Bowden. When he's on the phones, working the lines. But yeah, great show for you today. We're talking, first I'll do a quick recap from last night. I was at practice last night. So we got to talk to D'Anton Lynn, a couple defensive players, King Miller also. So a little brief, nothing groundbreaking, but give you a quick little brief recap of that. And then really just diving into Lincoln Riley talk. You know, it's the bye week. We've done plenty of therapy sessions. For those of you that joined the live call-in show last night, thank you so much. I think Tim and Madman did a great job. I didn't really get to watch a ton of it as I was driving back from practice through the teeth of LA, so it took me a while to get home. But I'm sure it was great as always. So thank you all of you that hung out and called in and had a good therapy session. But when it comes to Lincoln Riley, we'll talk the difference between program builders and program elevators. So we'll get to that. And then we'll kind of wrap the show. This will be the main kind of subject matter of Lincoln Riley and the offensive play calling. And that is obviously what has made him who he is. But let's discuss if that is the best for this team moving forward. Now, no indications are that any changes are being made. More so yesterday, Joel Klatt was on with Colin Cowherd, and they kind of discussed that in their own words. So it's more of me kind of commenting on that conversation, plus then kind of looking at, you know, what could be for this program and why. So we'll get into all that. Should be a lot of fun. So hope everyone is doing well. We'll wait for more of you to get in here as we just went live a few minutes ago. So almost the weekend. It's so weird, right? On these Saturdays, last bye week. So, you know, no USC football this weekend, which after last weekend is kind of a good thing. Kind of just relax, take in the other games that are out there, not have to stress out. And then we got a big one next week, the following week at Nebraska, at Lincoln. Let me say this while we're waiting for everyone to get in here, and then we'll jump right into it. Anyone traveling out to Nebraska for the game. Now, obviously, the game is in Lincoln, but most likely if you're flying, you'll fly into Omaha. It's about 30, 40 minutes away from Lincoln, bigger airport. So most likely you'll fly to Omaha. When you're in Omaha, you have to make sure you get a Reuben sandwich. I did not know this. We did a big cross-country camping road trip over the summer, me, my wife, and daughter. And on our way back, we ended up in Minnesota. I have family up there. And then on our way back, we came back down through Omaha because they have like a really good zoo. So I wanted to check that out. So while we were in Omaha, I did not realize that is the birthplace of the Reuben sandwich. And I love a good Reuben. I love a good sandwich regardless. Just texting with my buddy out in New York. They have like a spicy jerk sandwich out there that is fantastic. But I love a good Reuben. Omaha's got they've got tons of places with fantastic Reubens. So if you go to the game in Lincoln in 2 weeks, make sure to get yourself a Reuben sandwich. You will not be disappointed. Even if you don't love Reubens, you got to get it. It's the birthplace, right? So check that out. Omaha, not Lincoln. I know, obviously, the game is in Lincoln, but make that happen. All right. So last night we were able to talk to D'Anton Lynn. Those of you that follow the team, follow our coverage, follow D'Anton Lynn, know that he's always very even keel. Emotion really doesn't go up or down, at least to the media. I'm sure it does behind the scenes. So nothing, no sound bites from this, nothing real. I mean, what I appreciate about it is there's no gimmicks. It's just, straightforward. This is what it is. Really echoed what Lincoln Riley said on Tuesday, that it was really an execution issue against Notre Dame. It was a gap integrity issue. It was a assignment issue, and it's something that they are adamant on getting fixed, obviously. I spoke about Lincoln Riley's comments yesterday, right before practice, and I kind of divulged that reading between the lines, and this was nothing anyone said, but it just felt like guys trying to do too much, not trusting their counterparts to do their job. And, the famous Bill Belichick during the Patriots dynasty was like, do your job, right? That was the quote. All you got to worry about is doing your job. Don't worry about playing hero ball. Don't worry about doing everything else. And against Notre Dame, it felt like guys were just trying to play hero ball, especially when you give up that first 69-yard chunk. It's like it kind of flips something in your head, right? Where you're like, okay, well, I got to make this up. I got to, we got beat here. I'm going to counteract and do this. When in reality, it's just got to be laser focused on what you're meant to be doing and trust that the guy next to you is going to do what they're meant to be doing. And if 11 guys do that in unison, which we have seen specifically against Michigan, this can be a good defense. So that's what D'Anton Lynn was saying a lot. Like, we know if all 11 guys are playing on the same page, that's what he kind of said a lot, same page, this is a damn good defense. And I do agree with him because we've seen it. Granted, it's only really been once, but we have seen it. So how you dispel those, I guess, demons, if you will, and get everyone on the same page, that's what these coaches are getting paid the big bucks to figure out. And, would it have been better for this bye week to have been later on and kind of just force these guys to just hit the ground running after that tough loss? Maybe. But it also, I think, allows for some extra coaching, some extra kind of resetting of like, all right, we got the back half. We're on the back nine now. Front of the season's behind us. We're 5-2. Cool. We got everything in front of us. But now, unless we fix these issues, we're not going to get to where we want to go. So, yeah, that was really the only takeaway from D'Anton Lynn. Practice, practice, practice. But when asked, how do you fix things? He said, practice, practice, practice. Repetition, consistency. Spoke about some of the younger players and what they look for to get guys playing time is consistency in practice. And once you get that consistency, you earn the trust of the coaching staff, and then you'll start getting reps throughout in actual games. And he brought up Jaden Walker specifically, linebacker Walker, about a guy that, redshirt freshman, had a good spring camp, had a good fall camp, continued developing, continued showing consistent play, and we've seen his reps predicate that in game. Now, he was asked, and we've talked about this, about why running so much nickel against this team that was just dominating you in the run game, why not stack the box? And, his answer, very kind of beating around it. Obviously, coaches aren't going to just tell you exactly why. But basically said they were also kind of giving up things in the passing game. Not that much, but, I get where he's coming from, I guess. And so still had to stay honest in that thing. But obviously, if you can stop the run, it allows you to implement other things on defense, which they were not able to do. Now, the thing he didn't really say, but that I noticed is, give Notre Dame and their offensive coordinator a ton of credit, because they were spreading out their offense, even though they were running the football. Like, they weren't running, they ran some 12 personnel, but even in 12, they were splitting like a tight end out in the slot. Like, they were forcing kind of USC's defense to have to be in nickel. Now, whether that nickel should have been Eric Gentry or Kamari Ramsey, that's a whole other discussion. But they were spreading things out, basically saying our 5 linemen, sometimes a tight end, are going to beat your box. Like, we don't got to stack 8 guys in our box. We know with just our 5 linemen and perhaps a tight end and our running back are going to beat your 6 or 7 guys in the box, yada, yada. But if you decide to stack us, guess what? We're spread out. Now you're one-on-one matchups with no safety over the top. So that's how football is. It's a cat and mouse game. It's a chess match. But kudos to Notre Dame and their offense, because they were able to get that done, win that chess match. So that was really the only takeaways, I think, from last night. Nothing real big there. We'll again, huge opportunity for this team to rebound. Huge opportunity for this defense to come together as one and be more cohesive and be more on the same page in order to turn this thing around and prove that they are a good defense. And they weren't just a flash in the pan, or weren't just a group of 11 talented players that can't quite put it all together. And they've got plenty of time, and plenty of games to prove that that is not the case. Okay, so moving on, really quickly, let's give a good shout out to our friends over at Sleeper. Show is brought to you by the Sleeper app. Go download that today. It's #1 in the App Store. When you go to make your first deposit, make sure to use our promo code USC LAFB. You're going to get a match bonus up to $100. You deposit $100, they're going to give you $100 free to play with. Or if you want to put in 10, they'll give you 10 free to play with. And you might ask why. It's a season-long fantasy app. You know, there's other stats in stores, but what are you putting deposit for? Well, they got the daily fantasy option, which is a blast. It's essentially a daily pick 'em. Just choose 2 to 8 players across any sport. Choose more or less, whether it's passing yards, touchdowns, home runs, if you're going on the Dodgers World Series, goals, if you're a Kings fan, whatever you want to do. They have every sport available to you, 2 to 8, more or less, and you can win some real money. Right now, if you've never signed up for it, which you should have if you're watching the show, because we talk about it all the time, go sign up today, and you're going to get a free $20 entry. No deposit required, but you can stack both. So you can get the free $20, and put in a deposit that they'll match also. So you got extra free money to play with. Tell them the guys at the LAFB Network sent you. All right, so, and I see some of you guys in the chat already talking about this. This is obviously the conversation with Lincoln Riley. And so first I wanted to touch on, let's just get right into this. Offensive play caller. Now, Joel Klatt and Colin Cowherd were talking about this and how maybe not even historically, but in the last decade, there has not been a head coach win the national championship who is a play caller, whether it's offensively or defensively. When you look at the last 10 years, the last true, and guys are involved as they should be, but the last true play caller who was also the head coach was Jimbo Fisher with Florida State in 2013. So 12 years ago, if my math is correct. Last year, obviously, Ohio State wins it. Now, Ryan, this is kind of the talk we'll go through with Lincoln Riley. Ryan Day was known for being an offensive mind, a play caller, right? He took over the program from Urban Meyer due to his prowess in play calling, and decided last year to give that up and hired Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly, remember, that was the really interesting move. Chip Kelly was the head coach at UCLA, decides to demote himself to become an offensive coordinator for Ohio State. He becomes a play caller. Ryan Day is the true CEO. Ohio State goes and wins the national championship. At Michigan the year prior, Jim Harbaugh. He was not the play caller. Sharon Moore was actually his play caller. They win the national championship. This year, I should say, since Sharon Moore became the head coach, he immediately gave up play calling duties. This year is Chip Lindsey, I believe, is their play caller. Now, Michigan is what Michigan is, but just going on the point. Kirby Smart doesn't call defensive plays, even since doing that when he was a DC. Glenn Schumann, obviously, everyone knows as the defensive mind there, or not the defensive mind, but the defensive play caller. Nick Saban, for years, delegated to his coordinators, and we all know his tree and whatnot. LSU one prior to that, Ed Ogeron, Coach O, was not the play caller. More the CEO, the hype man, the recruiter. Clemson, Dabo Swinney. We know he's not, obviously. Brett Venables, that's where he ended up getting his job, because Brett Venables was his great DC. And we know about some of the OCs there. Alabama again, Clemson again, Alabama again, Ohio State with Urban Meyer. I just mentioned Ryan Day was underneath him. And then Florida State in 2013. When you look at the true play calling head coaches right now, and there's quite a few of them. So it's not like they don't exist. It's not like they don't have success. But obviously we know Lincoln Riley with USC, Steve Sarkisian with Texas. Now they got really close. But Steve Sarkisian is the offensive play caller. Lane Kiffin down in Ole Miss. As great as Lane Kiffin is, funny how these is like the USC tree too, right? Sark and Kiff. As great as Lane Kiffin has turned that program around, Ole Miss under the Kiffin era is always known to drop a winnable game. always in that era, right? Last year it was what, Florida late in the season, a really not good Florida. I mean, Florida was kind of surging, but still like a under 500 Florida team that Ole Miss lost to that killed their playoff hopes. I'm not saying that's directly because he's the play caller, but there's a theme there. Brett Venables at Oklahoma is the defensive play caller, trying to do it that way. Obviously, Oklahoma's having their best year so far under Venables, but we'll see how that continues, how that stacks up. We know he's gone through now 2 offensive coordinators, trying to have that kind of CEO of the offense run it while he runs the defense. So it's a really interesting dilemma. And then you look at, then you look at Kalen DeBoer. Kalen DeBoer doesn't call plays. He's delegated to an OC. He's focused on, being the CEO and whatnot. And we know how success he has had. Washington, Ryan Grubb was his OC. Now Ryan Grubb's back with him as his OC at Alabama. I go back and forth on this because as it pertains specifically to Riley, yes, he has mistakes. Yes, we know the egregious trick play against Notre Dame, but he is, without a doubt, one of the best offensive minds in college football. Without a doubt. You can not like that statement. You can disagree on because of some things that have happened that anger you. But an overall totality, he is one of the top offensive minds there is. He is also a very good play caller. Does he make mistakes? 100%. All coaches do. All play callers do. It just, when you're the OC and not the head coach, it doesn't get as can't think of the word, elevated, I guess, because it all falls on the head coach. But when you're the head coach and the play caller, it really shows out. Marcus Freeman, another one. He doesn't call plays as the head coach of Notre Dame. Former defensive coordinator, elevated. He's delegated. So what I'm trying to say is, so Lincoln Riley clearly is great offensive mind, great calling plays. But would it do the program better for him to delegate and take on the true CEO role where he can be more involved in everything, including the defense? That's the big question. Now, I don't see anything changing this year. We'll see how this year finishes. But it could be worth something watching and considering this offseason, seeing how far this team does go, whether a change ever is made. What's interesting too is, though, when you look at like the NFL, it's quite different. Play calling head coaches have a lot of success in the NFL. Andy Reid, tons of success. Sean McVay, lots of success. Bill Belichick, most success ever. Bruce Arians, ton of success when he was the head coach of Tampa, won the Super Bowl. And so then you go on that side of like, okay, well, college football is kind of becoming like the NFL. When we look at the way that there's essentially free agency and pay for play and all this. So why not try to emulate more of the NFL model? So I think there's both sides. Like, I see both sides of this coin. You look traditionally at college football, it hasn't worked. You look at current NFL, it has worked. Current college football is starting to meander more towards that. But just looking at the state of USC program right now and looking at how the defense has progressed and the conversation around that, and many will point to, like, look at Lincoln Riley's defenses as a head coach in his 7-8 years. He's never had a top defense. If he gave up play calling and could delegate more time, would that actually help the defense? Let's forget about the offense. Could him being more involved on the sidelines with the defense help things? I don't know, because we haven't seen it, but there is a case to be made about that. Like if a coordinator is handling the offensive play calling after a defensive series, he can be more involved in what's happening with adjustments and whatnot with the defense. So I've said this a lot. Lincoln Riley is who he is because of that offensive mind. He is who he is because of that play calling. But as a leader of a program, as a leader of just a company, right? Any company. Some of the best leaders figure out after learning that you can be more accomplished and your company will therefore reach further heights if you can correctly delegate different assignments. Like a CEO of a company can't be doing everything. It's one person. I've learned this. We have LAFB as a small company. Like if I'm trying to do 9 different shows covering 5 different LA sports teams, those 9 shows are not all going to be great because it's just you're spread too thin. 3 years ago we did the LA football show. It was we did a live 30-minute show for each LA football team. So we'd hit Rams, Chargers, UCLA, and USC. You know, put a ton of work into it, ton of research. But at the end of the day, it was just like, it was too much. Like I knew I could be better if I was more focused on one thing, one team, and delegate other hosts or whatever to focus on those other teams, which is what the LAFB model is now. So, I mean, that's a very small micro example when it comes to coaching, but that's where you can see success. And it's not necessarily taking away from what made Lincoln Riley who he is. It's just now recognizing that, hey, this is what got me here. But if I can delegate to a person that is equally or just beneath as good at this certain thing, I can then focus on other things that will get us not from here, but to there. I got us here. How do I get us there? Delegation is a powerful tool if you have the right people. Now, as the offensive coaching staff is currently constructed, you know, Luke Heward is the offensive coordinator. He's been a play caller. It's obviously been at much lower levels in the Mississippi Valley Conference or the Missouri Valley Conference and whatnot. But he's had some success, and obviously he comes from a great lineage, and he's been now the OC. He's involved, and it's not like Lincoln Riley's just like not going to be involved in the offense. Like he would basically still plan the game script, the game plan throughout the week, and then just on game days, pass the baton to say Heward or Dennis Simmons or whoever they decide to do so. Or you go out like Ryan Day did, and in the offseason, look for a true play calling offensive coordinator. Because again, I don't think anything's happening in season unless like the wheels fall off. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let's get, I see some comments here. Because I really do go back and forth on this. Just because of that NFL example. Like, I think you can have success, but we just haven't seen it on the college side. Now, this program's very different now with Chad Bowden, so Riley doesn't have to worry as much about, you know, obviously NIL and, you know, still recruiting, of course, but he doesn't have to be as in season focused on that because Chad Bowden handles that. So, let's see here. OTAP 00 or 11 or 001. Thank you. Always see you commenting on our stuff. Appreciate you, brother. Or if you're a female, I don't know by your handle, but thank you for your continued support. I would say if he can find someone that can call plays like him or better, obviously, if you can find someone better, he should turn over play calling. He will still design new plays. He's the best at that, but I suspect he will not. His ego. You know, I mean, I guess definition of ego, you could put that in there. Yeah, I guess I can't argue with that. Because by kind of definition, the ego is like when you think you are the best person for something, you're going to go after that. That's a very loose definition, obviously. But I think in his mind, and I haven't had this conversation with him, but I'm sure it's like he doesn't see the offense being better with someone else calling plays, which to some extent probably is true. Because again, I'm very bullish. He is one of the best play callers in football, mistakes included. But is the, I guess, juice worth the squeeze or whatever analogy you want to use? If the offense tapers a bit, but then he can have such a bigger role in every other aspect of the program, is that going to be more elevated than just a supreme offense? And I think I'm leaning towards the answer is probably yes. But yeah, great comment. Trojan Dale, what's up, brother? I believe it was you that called in the other night. Good to see you again. Yeah, I think there should be a hybrid plan. Maybe during the offseason, he can get together with an OC and develop all the plays and have involvement in that, but then hand over the play duties. So either way, he'll be every week, every game, he'll still be involved. With Kalen DeBoer down in Alabama, and this is any head coach, like you have over whatever you want to call it, overpowering ability on even the play calling. Like they'll still be in the headset. So let's just say, for instance, it's Luke Heward and he's like calling in the play, and Riley can just say, nope, we're not running that. He can overrule it. So the key with offensive minded play calling head coach is to not have to do that so much, because then you're just defeating the purpose. And then you're not allowing, you're micromanaging. No one likes a micromanager, right? On any business, on any level, you don't want your boss to be a micromanager. You want them to trust you to do the job that they gave you to do. But at the end of the day, he would have that overruling power in certain situations, certainly. And every game week would still architect the offense, unless all of a sudden the offensive coordinator is just like, has it dialed in, and he can be like, great, you're killing it. And he would still obviously be involved as the quarterback guru. I mean, Luke Heward's the QB coach, but I think we all know Lincoln Riley is still the main reason why Jaden Maiava has made this jump, why Baker Mayfield, why Caleb Williams, why Kyler Murray were all number one overall picks, why Jalen Hurts went in the second, won a Super Bowl. We know that Lincoln Riley is that QB guru. He would still be that. It doesn't change just from not calling plays on game days. What's up, Paulie Walnuts? Boy, his first year when he had all that NFL talent on both sides of the ball and he was dialing up those plays, people were going nuts. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this year, people, I mean, his play calling has been fantastic. Even in the Notre Dame game, there was some great play calling. Now, obviously, it gets overshadowed by those monumental mistakes and the 2 4th down attempts and the trick play. Negative always overshadows positive, unfortunately, in our society, and especially in college football. But outside of really those 3 plays, I mean, he's dialed up amazing game plans. Even in the Illinois loss, wasn't the offense. Everyone can talk about the 2-minute touchdown and whatnot, but that wasn't play calling. Maybe that changes if he's not calling the plays and he's the CEO. That could become some of the conversation. Okay. Adam Childs 581. I have an idea. Let's take away what makes him special and make him a remedial head coach and not get the upside of his play calling. Where else in life would you make that trade? So this is a really good comment. Adam, I appreciate this comment, whether you're trying to be dismissive or not. I do appreciate it, because this is the whole argument of not doing this and this is kind of what I said earlier. I don't know if you were tuning in earlier or not, but here's a guy that is who he is and is where he is because of his offensive mind and play calling ability. So why would you change that? Because that's what made him who he is. And So there's an extent to that I completely agree. But every leader across any business, any sport, uses a special skill set to get to the top. And then once they're at the top, adapt and say, okay, I need to develop new skill sets that can help lead us to a greater pasture, a greater end goal, because I can't just rely on this one thing that got me to here. If I want to get there, I have to develop other skills, other things that will benefit this company, this football team. So I need to find someone that is trying to get where I am now, how I got here, and give them that responsibility. And then I need to go focus on other responsibilities. Now, that doesn't mean you're abandoning that, because that is who you are. You're still involved in that. You're still the architect of that, but let someone else go build it. You can be the architect, the design chief, the chief engineer, but you don't want to need to build it also. You're not the architect, the engineer, and the construction worker. You got to delegate some of that. So that has been the big anti-handing over play, which was kind of my stance probably until like thinking about this week. He's like, well, that's who he is. Why take that away? Then you're just making him, as you said, a remedial coach. I don't think Nick Saban was a remedial coach after he handed over play calling duties eventually. Ryan Day last year won the Natty, deciding, you know what, let me hand over play calling duties, even though that's made him who he was. So there's other examples I said. Again, I'm not still fully on the sold on doing that, but I am starting to lean a little bit more. I'm starting to lean. All right, let's see. Should I stop being a husband so I can focus on being a dad? Very interesting comparison. No is the answer. You should not. Let's see here. Just going through all these. What's up, B22 Stinger? Always good seeing you. I think it's pretty arrogant of us to assume we know better. I don't know if this is in relation to play calling or understanding the dynamics of game management. I do think in general, all of us, I'm not saying fans, I'm not saying media, I'm saying all of us combined kind of make assumptions on things that we don't totally fully know. Like, we're not in the meeting rooms. I try to be very even keel on that. Like, hey, this is kind of my opinion for what I'm seeing, but I don't know the play call. I don't know the play design. I don't know what the defense gap schemes were in that situation. So, yeah, it is kind of, we all do that, right? Okay. So good comments. Appreciate you all. Let me know what you guys think if you haven't already. Sorry, I said this last week, but it's always hard to, without a co-host, kind of going through. I don't want just to be dead air as I'm trying to read all these. But it is an interesting conversation. It's probably moot because, like I said, I don't think there'll be any change this year. Okay. Andy, I'm going to read this because I did talk about this earlier for sure. Saban and Day are totally different personalities. And to counter them, I present Andy Reid and Bill Belichick as the college game becomes closer to the pro game. So, yeah, I think you joined late. I brought this exact thing up earlier, and which is the other counterpoint of, while we haven't seen it successful in the last decade in college football, it's had tons of success in the NFL. Obviously, Reid and Belichick, you mentioned Sean McVay. We can go down the list of play calling head coaches in the NFL that have had success. So Totally agree with you. And that is the kind of counterpoint, especially the fact that college football now is pay for play, NIL, free agency. I mean, it's swinging towards the NFL model. So in that regard, it's like, okay, no, just keep doing what we're doing. Got to see the defensive improve with the staff they have. Kind of let D'Anton Lynn be the CEO of the defense, Lincoln Riley be, the overarching CEO, but really focused on offense because we see it work in the NFL. I mean, Sean McVay, if we're sticking here with LA, like he's the head coach, obviously, he's the CEO, but Chris Shula runs the defense. Like Sean McVay, they meet during the week and whatnot, but Chris Shula is the CEO of the defense. And probably going to be a head coach very soon because of how well he's done with that defense, with the talent discrepancy, or I should say with the youth on that defense. So in that comparison, 100% agree. And I'm, like I keep saying, I'm on the fence. I don't know the answer. I'm just looking at data from college football. I'm looking at data from the NFL. I would love to sit down with Lincoln Riley in a non-media environment, just a casual, candid conversation, and get his thoughts on it. I mean, we know his answer because he's doing it, but I'd be so curious to hear his kind of reasoning behind it and how he is able to compartmentalize all aspects of being a head coach while having to dial up plays on the fly in big time situations, in big time games, while also having to focus on all these different things. I mean, coaches that do that, it's remarkable. And they just have different minds than us. I talked about earlier about trying to do 9 shows and how that was challenging for me in this. I mean, that still doesn't remotely compare to being real time on the sidelines with 80,000 screaming fans and having to deal with as being a CEO and calling if you're going to do a swing out route or, run the football or on a 4th and 1 or do a tight end screen. It's wild. Wild. So, last thing here from Adam. Yeah, I appreciate you, brother. Also, don't think Riley is the alpha CEO type that Saban is. Can't speak today's personality. Yeah, I don't know. This is just from what I've heard. I think the Lincoln Riley we see in front of the cameras and the media is quite different than what he is behind closed doors. Now, I mean, Nick Saban, let's just give his flowers. Obviously, he's the greatest college football coach of all time. So it's a hard comparison to make. We want Lincoln Riley to be that, but it's a tough comparison to say, okay, yeah. I mean, Nick Saban is the greatest to ever do it and built a culture that was just sustained for decades. So I don't even want to compare to that, but I do think Lincoln Riley could be a fine CEO personality. I do think he's a little different with the team than he is in front of the camera. Here's an example. I've seen a lot of people say, man, he just, never shows any emotion in front of the camera. Is he passion? You see, at practice is a different animal. We had to see a few practices with the media that we weren't able to report on as for observation. But it's different when you're actually in that environment, in that setting, and you're not then having to put on kind of a face for the media and the cameras and kind of keep it even keel. Dan Lynn, the same way. I said top of the show, right? Even keel. Just doesn't go higher, doesn't go lower when he talks. He's just a little different guy in front of the team. Now, I haven't seen them in meeting rooms or whatnot, but at least on the field we saw and whatnot. So, Paulie, I don't think people realize that coaches from the NFL ranks and all over the country have come to sit with Riley and learn from him. I can't even imagine having to focus on winning and development. 100%. 100%. And I know we haven't seen the success yet at USC under Riley that we expect. And I talked last show how, it shouldn't be like this, but in reality, we're in year 2, not year 4. The real U2 reset everything. Unfortunately, it was a catastrophic year in year 2. So year 4 is really year 2. Last year was the year 1 rebuild. When you look at the transition of everything. So now we're in year 2. But Paulie, to your point, every coach out there, and this is what I said prior to the season starting, the respect level that every coach has for Lincoln Riley, including Nick Saban, is top notch. Sean McVay has talked many times about Lincoln Riley. Rob Ryan came here because of Lincoln Riley, and D'Anton Lynn obviously had history with his dad and met D'Anton Lynn when he was on staff. But he talked about Lincoln Riley being like his exact quote in his opening presser. Lincoln Riley is the best offensive mind in football, not college football, in football. So that's the dichotomy of you can still be the great offensive mind. Do you need to be the play caller? That's the conversation. So, yeah, I think that, I've probably talked around myself too many times. If there's any other questions coming in, would love to hear them. But last thing I kind of wanted to say, and I mentioned it at the top, was the difference between program building, being a program builder, and being a program elevator. And I think this also goes into why I believe, again, you can disagree and shout at the clouds, but why I believe in reality, we're in year 2, not year 4. I know that sounds ridiculous because it shouldn't be, but I'm just talking real. A coach like Lincoln Riley was a program elevator, and he's had to become a program builder. You don't just become that. You have to make mistakes. You have to learn. You have to tear things down. You have to realize what you did somewhere else won't work at your new place. He inherited a very good Oklahoma program from Bob Stoops, right? Bob Stoops, blue blood Oklahoma, obviously tons of history there. Had built a winning program for decades. Lincoln Riley comes over as the OC. Bob Stoops basically says, this is my heir apparent, and hands over, once he steps away, a program that was already built, that already had a winning culture, that had a history, that it was kind of a well-oiled machine. You just couldn't screw it up. So Riley took that program and then elevated it. Like he made it better. Like he proved he was the right choice to take over that program. He was a program elevator. Well, then he comes over to USC and is tasked with being a program builder. And those are totally different things. Because when you're a program elevator, you're inheriting a culture, all these different things, and then you're kind of tweaking to what you prefer. When you're a program builder, you're like, okay, let's look at what we got and let's tear everything down. Let's rebuild the culture. We got to change this and that, knowing that it has to fit for where you are. And so I think when Lincoln Riley came over, he basically brought, including his staff, those Oklahoma principles that he had kind of tweaked from Bob Stoops and tried to make them fit at a USC program that needed to be torn down to the studs. And we got the flash in the pan season in 22 with all-world Caleb Williams and a lot of talented players they were able to get in the portal. Some scheduling luck in that season. And then we kind of saw it come crashing down in 22 when there was no growth. There was a big regression. And so then that program builder mentality kind of came in 23. Like, all right, this is not going to be easy. We're going to get a lot of hate for this, but it's time now we tear it down. And that's where we saw the new defensive staff come in. We saw a transition from transfer portal to heavy recruiting and development. And so now we're in year 2 of that full rebuild, which we shouldn't be, but that's just where the mentality. When you have guys like Kurt Signetti, who's always been a program builder, it's a different mentality. And so they're in year 2 of Indiana because he tore that thing down and built it up immediately in year 1. So I think it's just that mentality that took time to learn. Now we're out of time, right? Year 4, this needs to be successful. Year 5 is it. Year 5 is CFP or bust. So, you got the grace partially because of the massive contract that it was just unbuyoutable, but you had the miscues in year 2. We allowed you to reset in year 3. We're seeing some growth in year 4. Hopefully continued growth. And hey, if they can win out and great, then all this conversation, we can just laugh about it later. But we will see how that program building mentality now can continue to build this program in the correct direction that was unfortunately not established in year 2. So we shall see. And will that building include play calling duties? Again, you can't compare everything to everything. Or you can't compare. A lot of things are apples and oranges, I'm trying to say. So you can't just look at this program over here and say like, well, why can't we copy that? Every program is different. Every situation is different. Every climate's different. Every culture is different. Running a program in LA is very different than running a program in Bloomington. Doesn't mean can't have success in either. You just have to do things differently. So I personally am still really excited about the direction of this team. I really am. I think there's a lot of talent in this roster. I fully believe in this coaching staff. I fully believe in that Lincoln Riley has become that more program builder mentality, which is what needed to happen. I believe in the future recruits coming in. So I do think things are still trending in the right direction. Just how everyone thought after Michigan. After that Michigan game, it was all praise for everyone. Players, coaching staff, Jen Cohen, Chad Bowden, everyone. And then 1 week later, you lose to Notre Dame and it's all crashing down again. I get it. I get that's kind of the landscape of college football. I get that. I respect it. But let's see how this team responds. So last couple comments here, and then I will sign off for the day. We'll be back later, obviously. From Paulie, what people don't realize about Cignetti and that type of style, it's great and it works and it's a quick fix, but it burns players out. He's like Tom Coughlin. It's a great point. What's also going to be interesting to see with Cignetti is, and I think he's a really good coach, so this is not any knock on that and saying they're going to have this happen, but it's a very veteran team in Indiana. Like, he brought a ton of guys from James Madison. Obviously, they hit the portal. Now, they weren't getting like 5 stars in the portal, but they were getting established players who had a lot of playing experience. After this season, they are losing a lot of players. I mean, I don't have the roster in front of me, but they may have, 18 new starters next year. And so it'll be interesting to see how that success continues if they go with, young development, or if they just kind of continue to hit this portal with like players that have played. With this USC team, it's a very young team. And I've said that a bunch. It's a very young team that has clearly displayed some growing pains, but very clearly has a high ceiling if everyone can put it together, if everyone can play in unison, if that defense can trust each other and play as 11 and not as 1. But the Tom Coughlin comp is really interesting, Paulie, because I think you're right. We'll see. I mean, obviously he's gone from small school, bigger. We haven't seen him at this level yet, how long it can last. I mean, he was at Elon and then James Madison and now at Indiana. He's at Indiana now for the next decade. So we'll see what that looks like, and we can have this conversation again in 2 to 3 years. But it is an interesting, I think it works better. I'll just say this, Paulie, last thing on this. I think it works better in college because no matter what, guys, you're only going to be with you, 5 years max, 6 with medical waivers. Most guys, 3. So it works a little better. Whereas in the NFL, like, you're a franchise player, you're there for a decade, and you're like, all right, this again. Year 6, I'm still dealing with this. Like, so I think he will have more success at college. I don't think he could ever be an NFL coach, which most college guys can't. So yeah. Let's see here. Ohio State is able to both spread things out and downhill run game because they have the horses. I think USC will get there. I think it's just youth. I think they have the horses. They're so young in the stables. Right? They're still just drawing a blank on what the term is for the ponies. They're just ponies still. Let's see when they're horses. I think they have the horses. They just haven't grown up yet. I understand. Ben, what's up? I understand Like and Riley wanted to be a play caller, but having an offensive coordinator would alleviate some UV play calling. I'm assuming that just means bad play calling we saw against Notre Dame. It could. It certainly could. I don't think it would, because this is my big thing. I don't think the play calling would get like better. Riley's a great play caller. He makes mistakes just like every play caller. His just get under a microscope more because he's also the head coach. I don't think the play calling would get better, but it would allow him to be much more involved in other aspects, and those would get better. Like, unless you just don't believe he's a good coach, which I believe he is, I don't think it's deniable that him being more involved in special teams, in defense, in not having to play call and game manage, like those would improve. So the play calling might take a little bit of a hit, but if that hit's so minimal, the improvement on every other aspect of the team is well worth it. And that's the conversation. Jacoby, Indy is our rival. Of course, people will be mad when we lose to them. Keep the Notre Dame game. Yep. 100%. People are definitely mad, and they should be. Hate losing the rivals. I still have Notre Dame fans all in my mentions. So, let's see here. Franco Legs, I think, is his handle. I like Lincoln Riley. He's a great coach at first. I think he respected USC football with the way he was coaching in the beginning, and now he's getting used to the style of playing in Los Angeles. Yeah, like I said, I think he's transitioned from a program elevator to a program builder, which is what this program needed. So last one here. Bad play calling. My bad. I was using speech to text because at work. Well, thanks for watching the show at work. Appreciate you. At the very least, a serious OC that would be in his ear a little better than what John McDonnell has been. Yeah, I mean, McDonnell's an analyst. I don't know how extremely involved he is on game days. He's much more involved during the week. Luke Heward obviously is the OC, but again, to your point, I don't know how involved he is on game days in his ear, if at all. So, and yeah, this is the $1 million point, right? Riley is elite offensively. If the defense was average, we wouldn't have these conversations. So the question from that is, if Riley was more involved, would the defense be above average? I don't know the answer to that because he's never done that. I also think this is a really damn good defensive staff. We just haven't quite seen the fruits of the labor yet. But what do they say, guys? What do they say? It's always darkest before the dawn. So maybe that Notre Dame defensive output was the darkest point, and now we can see the sunrise over Lincoln, Nebraska. Even though it's a night game, a blackout game, we can see the sunrise over Lincoln Memorial Football Stadium in Nebraska. End with a random story for you. I went on my senior high school trip. Everyone kind of does a senior trip. Me and my buddy, I'm from Denver, Colorado. Me and my buddy did a cross-country road trip from Denver. Our destination was New Jersey to see a Jack Johnson concert. On our way, we stopped in like Chicago, New York City, all over the place. Our first stop from Denver, though, was Lincoln, Nebraska. I'd never been to Lincoln. So we stayed the night at a janky little hotel. We were 18-year-old kids. And the next morning, we're like, hey, let's go visit University of Nebraska. I was already enrolled or going to be going to Long Beach State. My buddy was going to be going to Colorado State. So it wasn't for that reason, but hey, let's check it out. So we go into Nebraska. You can go in at this time. This was, more than a decade ago. Oh yes. Thank you. A young horse is a foal. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Trojan Dale, you're the man. Thank you so much for this super chat. Really appreciate you. It means the world. So anyway, so we go into Memorial Stadium, and in the entryway, they have it set up. Again, I don't know if it's like this now. This is more a decade ago, but they have their Heisman trophies. I believe they have 3 Heisman trophies. And they have a bunch of different like awards, and they have a hallway. You walk down with all these different trophies and memorabilia, and it's just cool. As a fan of just college football, it's really cool to see. So we're walking down this hall, and there's this door that is unlocked. So we walk through this door, and next thing we know, we are standing on the 20-yard line of the field. I have no idea how we got out there. I'm like filming, have like a camcorder back in the day, the big camcorders, no phones yet, no video phones. And so, we ended up walking down the field. So hopefully that is an omen for the USC Trojans to go and take that field, take that momentum away from Nebraska, and just seize that moment to turn their season back to where it should be. So it's going to be a great game. We'll talk all about it next week. But thank you all for hanging out with me, making this thing great. Been a ton of fun. Appreciate you all. We're going to keep this thing rolling, this USC LAFB, keep this train moving and grooving and growing. And it's all because of all of you, the Trojan family. So let's keep it up. Let me know if you're watching this after the fact. Comment below your thoughts on Lincoln Riley as a play caller. But I hope all of you have a fantastic rest of your Thursday. All you Dodger fans out there, tomorrow night, World Series starts. Game 1, Blake Snell on the mound. Let's see a Dodgers repeat. Keep ruining baseball. Why not? That's fantastic. And hopefully some of that winning success trickles down to our USC Trojans. So you guys are the best. Appreciate you. Everyone have a blessed Thursday. Be back tomorrow with plenty more USC concert. As always, fight on.